Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling video podcast here on YouTube. And for people who are wondering, I've been saying that I've been trying to go into some other areas, and that potential is going to be on SoundCloud for an audio side. Again, I'm going to try to broaden the audience as much as I possibly can and try to get it out there as many different ways as possible. So we may be going audio at some point in time. I don't know exactly when yet, but this GodSaw's Turnbuckle is going to focus around Monday Night Raw from June 26, 2017. And honestly, this is a pretty good episode of Raw. I'm not going to lie on that one. So we're just going to we'll go through everything here. They start off the show with Roman Reigns coming out there, cutting a good promo on Strowman, everything that had happened from the week before with him getting choked out, everything in that sense. And as he's going through this promo, all of a sudden you hear just like sirens going off in the background. But my initial thought was that it's like it was the exact same siren sound as Scott Steiner's video or his music during his WWE time, and kind of now as well. So you was like, wait a minute, is this guy? No, wait a minute, he's over on Impact Wrestling doing that horrible program with JB and Josh Matthews. No, not Scott Steiner. An ambulance backs out. Roman does the instant horror movie mishap by walking up to it, assuming that Strowman would be inside. He wasn't. Strowman sneaks up from behind him, and they kind of brawl around the staging area, finishing off where Roman was going to go for a Superman punch. He gets caught and gets just chucked into the side of the ambulance. It was like the entire thing was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I thought it came off really good. And that was actually kind of the last you saw of them throughout the entire night. So, up next, you had Elias Samson along with Cesaro and Sheamus in the ring, and they start talking about LA and everything in that sense. And it was like, okay, mate, and you even get Elias Samson saying, he's like, usually I'm a solo act, but for this one occasion, this seems like a special bit, and it seemed like Cesaro and Sheamus were about to sing along with him. To go along with everything. They get interrupted immediately by Finn Balor, and then of course they get interrupted by the Hardys, and then of course Finn Balor comes out because it was a 6-man tag. Good stuff during this match. I thought the match itself was a really good match, and they kind of showed off everything they were doing. The one little trope that they had, and honestly, it didn't really take that much away from the match, because they had Josh Duhamel, the dude from Transformers, and apparently he's doing some kind of thing with Sheamus in a WWE Films thing as well. He was on commentary throughout the match, and it seemed like I said, it didn't feel like he took too much away from the match itself. They obviously talked about their projects, and it was like, okay, they weren't necessarily calling the action in the ring, but he also didn't seem like it's like, oh, I just don't want to be here type of celebrity thing that they usually end up doing there. So honestly, it didn't really take away from the match. Finn Balor and the Hardys go over in the end with a coup de grace to Cesaro, and they get the victory that way. So it looks like, it looks like they are going to go a little bit longer with this Finn Balor Elias Samson thing, which, like, Elias Samson's getting some good programs right off the bat since his call up to main roster, and I guess they're going to keep the Hardys in the tag team title picture for the time being to go along with it. So I guess we're going to get one more match with Cesaro and Sheamus in that sense. So we'll see where everything fully goes there. I thought the match itself was pretty good. Up next, you had another Shattered Dreams production promo from Goldust. He was going to, and this was basically him setting up as like what would look to be the match for the night, which was a match between Goldust and R-Truth, which ended up being next in there. So good promo again. I'm liking the old Goldust promos, and I actually loved what they did for the match itself. So the match doesn't actually start between R-Truth and Goldust. Goldust comes out, and he has his own film guy with him. like his own film camera, everything in that sense, and he has him in front of R-Truth, and he just beats down R-Truth as this guy is filming him do this the entire time. Honestly, I thought this was really good, because at the way that they've been going with these promos, this deserves to be a pay-per-view match at this point, and it just needs to happen. So all in all, I thought it ended up being really well done, and I personally enjoyed the entire segment that they had there for Goldust and R-Truth, and we'll see where they go with it. Honestly, the first thing that popped in my mind is like, wait a minute, they have this guy filming the beatdown in the ring. They need to like edit this together and do something special just with that portion of the footage for next week or something to go along with it. We'll see where they go along with everything. You had a backstage interview with up next. You had a backstage interview with Paul Heyman, basically saying that Brock Lesnar was going to be there and he was going to call out Samoa Joe. But then Samoa Joe interrupts Paul Heyman, and it looks like he's going to choke him out again. But he gets in that little uncomfortable spot for somebody being too close to someone else in the terms of how they were talking, and he comes off like this madman. He just comes off as that guy. It's like, yeah, he could go off on Paul Heyman at any second if he just felt like it. And he didn't do it there. It was kind of just sending a message to Brock and say, yeah, I'll see him then. So, right before they go into the Miz TV segment, before I go into the Miz TV segment, because this is probably the one I'm probably going to talk about the most. I'll talk about each of these segments before the main event of the night, which was the women's gauntlet match for the #1 contendership. So they basically showed a few vignettes backstage of each of the ladies, each of the women picking their number. They started off with Bayley picking a number. She looks a little bit disappointed in the number. It was like oh boy type moments. And then you had Mickie James and Dana Brooke picking their number a little bit later on, which is hilarious. This is like their only nod to Kurt. They also have this be the only nod to Kurt Angle going through his phone and seeing what's going on about this person who keeps sending stuff to him and Corey Graves to go along with it. So he's not even fully paying attention to the fact that Mickie James and Dana Brooke are picking a number. I don't think they show one with Emma in there. I don't remember they showed one with Emma. And then, of course, before the last one that they show inside the office is Sasha Banks. And everybody just kind of had the same reactions to everything in that sense. But before the main event, which I'm not going to talk about yet, before the main event, they had Nia Jax coming out of Kurt's office after she had picked her number. And she runs into Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss starts cutting a promo, kind of buttering up to Nia Jax and trying to be friendly and everything in that sense to go along with it, and wishes her luck. And of course Nia goes like, no, I'm not going to need it, whatever, type of thing. So those were those segments throughout the night leading into the main event itself. So now I'm going to talk about that the Ball family being on Miz TV, and I'm going to go off on it on this one. I'm going to go off on it this way. I personally did not like the segment at all. I thought it was horribly just done. It was just completely done, or it was like it just was horribly done in my mind. It just didn't come off all that good in the sense it was a train wreck throughout the entire thing. You had Miz come out there. It's like, oh, you're coming out here to say, well, we're going to do some kind of partnership or something in that sense. And it's like, you had LeVar Ball who's out there, and he brought out his youngest son, which is Lamel. I think he's like 15 or something like that. And then he brings out Lorenzo Ball, the second round draft, or not the second round, but the first round draft pick, the second pick for the Lakers and everything in that sense. Now, here's the thing. I was listening to it. It's like LeVar was like, I've never heard him live. I've always heard the clips and everything in that sense afterwards, and how much he usually talks about everything in that sense. But like every time LeVar Ball is trying to talk throughout the entire segment, you could hear it. The crowd wanted nothing of him. They wanted him just gone. Now in tow, you could tell like his sons are out there, like everything he's like saying, doing, he's doing all this weird stuff, and I'm not gonna like I said this segment was a train wreck, and by honestly, the only thing that I could come up with this one was because it wasn't worse than the Alexa Bliss Bayley segment. It wasn't worse than that, but it was one of those moments as WWE creative is backstage, like I wonder. It's like, do you think we could do worse than the Alexa Bliss Bayley This Is Your Life segment? It's like, and they just reading it's like they can't do any worse than this, and they're like, hold our beer, we're gonna try, we're gonna definitely try on this one, and that's what it ended up feeling like. They felt like they were trying to make the worst segment of the year. It's gonna be up there. It was a train wreck, but there was entertainment to it as well. I'm not gonna lie. There was some entertaining spots to it. Was it Lorenzo Ball? He talks briefly. He talks briefly and basically says how happy he is about being a Laker. He gets cheers from the crowd, everything in that sense, because he's a Laker. And of course, they're in LA. So they're going with that side of everything. So again, this eventually leads to Dean Ambrose coming out. And he's wearing the big Baller or the Baller brand shirt and everything to go along with it. He's talking about how he likes free t-shirts, as LeVar is trying to still upstage everything that's going on. I love how Dean basically says, like, LeVar he just looks at him and he's like, just keep doing your thing. Do whatever. I'll just keep going. Whatever on this one. And this eventually led to a 6-man tag. Like I said, I thought the segment was a train wreck. I thought there was entertaining things about it. It was definitely a bad segment, and probably up there for one of the worst of the year to go along with it inside of there. So it was what it was in that one. And like I said, there was some entertaining value. There's some, like, you could tell LeVar just feels like an over-the-top comedy wrestling villain. That's what he seems like in every way. He tries to come off as like a serious wrestling villain or like just a serious heel, and he's like just over-the-top comical. I don't really want to see too much of that guy when it comes down to it in the end. Whatever on that one. So this leads to the 6-man tag with Dean Ambrose, Heath Slater, Rhino, and Rhino going up against Miz, and now that they're calling his Miz-tourage, which is Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. Decent enough match. And it's like decent enough match there. You have Miz, Dallas, and Axel go over. Again, it's to me, I feel like it's good that at least Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, they're doing something now. They're not just backstage waiting on everything or something in that sense. It was a decent enough match. It was what it was. Up next, we had Enzo Amore come out, and he starts doing his normal bit. And it's like, it does feel a little weird not having Big Cass around there with Enzo, so doing the whole shtick. He basically goes out there, cuts an impassionate promo to call out Cass, and then Cass eventually comes out, which he doesn't have new music yet. He still comes out to the old music, but with different Titantron stuff or something in that sense. And again, like, Enzo's cutting an impassioned speech saying he doesn't, like, even though you did what you did, like, we're family, we're like family, everything in this, I'm not gonna let this end based off of something like that, and tries to apologize for everything that he did, but he is who he is and he's not gonna change. Cass basically says initially that he is, he's sorry, he's remorseful for what he did, everything in that sense. They end out, he wants to make up, they want to shake hands, they hug, and they do their normal shtick for a little bit to go along with it. As they go up the rampway, they do their bit where they hold, like, Enzo pretends to hold the mic and Cass is doing his thing too, and then Cass just lays out Enzo, and it was one of those bits, it's like you saw it a mile away, but your initially thing is like, wait a minute, are they really turning back on this after 1 week? No. And then Cass just drills Enzo, and then he picks him up, And I don't think people saw what was going to actually end up happening, but like Cass picks him up and just chucks him down the ramp, and it looked so sick in that one. It was a good segment, very good segment from Enzo and Cass, and I thought it came off really good. And here's the nice thing that they did afterwards, and they added a little bit of touch to this. They had Cass come back out and get in the face of Corey Graves for revealing him. And he even goes off and says, it's like, I don't know what kind of dirt you have on Kurt, but he basically said, I can't touch you, anything in this, because he makes it feel like he wants to beat up Corey Graves, but he's not allowed in that sense. I like the added touch of him getting in Corey Graves' face and basically telling him to stay out of his own business. So, up next, you have Seth Rollins and Kurt Hawkins, and this was pretty much a squash match. Nothing much to this one, and then Bray interrupts him with a promo, which has basically been about the same promo that you've seen every week. This program is it's give or take, and it's not so much that good. Mainly probably because it just feels like they don't have the motivation, the true motivation to fight each other, other than the Fatal 5-Way, and there's not really much to that at that point in time. So, it is what it is there. So, not much to that. I can't really say too much about it either, because it just felt the same as the weeks before. So up next, you had Paul Heyman. He doesn't do an entrance or anything. He's just in the ring, starts cutting a promo on Samoa Joe, and brings out Brock Lesnar. And it's like he says, Brock Lesnar's gonna confront Samoa Joe. He's gonna call him out, and they're gonna have this big brawl again or something in that sense. But as Brock Lesnar comes out, he gets attacked by Samoa Joe on the ramp, and he gets put in the coquina clutch. And Brock Lesnar fights out of it a couple times, but then immediately gets put back on. And they get it to the point that, like, they tease that Brock is passing out, and Samoa Joe gets pulled off by, like, the Revival and the club members to go and the club that go along with it. This was a really good segment. This was great. It's like Samoa Joe's backstage. He knows he's about to get called out. So, what do? Okay, I'm going to get called out. If you're going to just come out there and have your back turned, I'm going to come out there and attack, whatever. And basically, did that. And Heyman does cut another promo afterwards, and I'm liking the Heyman promos on Samoa Joe. He's building up Samoa Joe and also taking him down a little bit, too. Like, he's putting him down. Like, most of the times, you don't see Heyman cut a promo where he's, saying disparaging things about about Brock Lesnar's opponents. He usually puts them up, and then he's like, "But Brock Lesnar," type thing. So he would build them up. It's like, these guys can do all these great things, but this is Brock Lesnar, and you can't do that to him. So this is some different stuff and some pretty good stuff from Paul Heyman in the terms of his promos and everything in that sense. So, not too bad of stuff. So let's see here, what else we got? Oh yeah, we had Lince Dorado going up against Neville, and they have Akira Tozawa backstage, and the match itself, or not backstage, but at ringside. And everything in that sense, he has like a few amenities or something to go along with it as he's watching the match. The match was fine. Neville goes over with the rings of Saturn. Neville's great as a heel. I'm really enjoying Neville's stuff, and he starts jaw-jacking with Akira Tozawa after the match. And they get face to face, and it looks like they're about to have a brawl themselves. But Titus O'Neil comes out and says that the Titus brand is no more. It's now known as Titus Worldwide. Okay. It's like, so he's calling it Titus Worldwide, and he says that Akira Tozawa is the newest signing. It looks like Akira Tozawa is actually buying in because he looks all excited about it. And basically said the match was made for the pay-per-view with Akira Tozawa going up against Neville for the Cruiserweight title. Like I said, I've been liking the stuff that they've been doing with this, and the fact that you have a little bit of crossover now with the main roster, with full-on main roster side and the 205 side. because it's basically been the cruiserweights have always been with the cruiserweights, and you haven't it always felt like it was its own little separate thing without, and it looked out of place on Raw. Now it kind of looks in place with Raw and what they need to be doing there. So I'm liking what they're doing here. And that match with Akira Tozawa and Neville should be a really good one at the pay-per-view as well. So this brings us to the main event tonight, because we went through all those other segments already. So the women's gauntlet match, and it was for number one contendership for the women's title. The person gets a shot at the title at the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view. Still hilarious pay-per-view name. I still need to do something with that. So the women's gauntlet match. It starts off with Bayley and Nia Jax. Basically, the first two matches were quick, but they made it feel like that each person was kind of getting a back and forth and everything in that sense with both Bayley and Mickie James. Nia, even to the point that you see that Bayley's kind of changing up her offense. She's bringing a more strike-based and more harder-hitting style to the ring at this point. But it seems like they're taking her out of that title picture at this point in time, which is probably not a bad thing considering what happened with her and Alexa Bliss and everything in that sense. They need to rehab that character in some way, shape, or form. And it looks like she's not going to be the main focal point of Raw on the women's side, at least for the time being. Let's see if that stays a permanent thing, or if it's something that they're just saying that it ends up being permanent and she never gets back to anything, or if it's just kind of a shorter term and hopefully down the road later in the year or something like that, or early next year they decide to go back to Bayley a little bit more. That match was fine. It was probably about a 3-minute match. Same with the Mickie James match. They were really cool. A lot of these matches were really quick, especially after Mickie James and Bayley. Dana and Emma basically get squashed in a matter of seconds, or probably about 30 seconds each, before Sasha comes out. And I actually I did like the beginning of this match, because it was finally them using Nia Jax in a way that she kind of needed to be. She needed to be fully shown, she's been shown as the dominant force, but this kind of solidified it, and you could tell the crowd was kind of even getting behind her a little bit after the match with Dana Brooke, because you got a decent pop during her when she gave the leg drop to Dana Brooke and everything in that sense. So this led to the portion that was Sasha and Nia, and this match was considerably longer, telling a full-on story in the match, everything in that sense of Sasha having to be the faster one, everything in that to try to take down Nia, which she eventually does. She gets dominated for a good portion of it, even gets hit with the Samoan drop, which is basically her finisher, but she rolls outside the ring. But eventually sets it up to where she has to put the bank statement on in a different way. She was hoisted up on Nia Jax's shoulders, and then she chicken wings her arms with her legs, and then puts in the bank statement that way and gets her down. And eventually Nia has to tap out. I thought the match was good. I thought it was good setup. The stuff that they had at the beginning with both Bayley and Mickie was pretty good as well. They were kind of the wear down a little bit, and Dana Brooke and Emma were kind of added to the dominance factor. And I'm liking where they're going. I like where they went with it. They're finally kind of trying to use Nia Jax in a way that they needed to. She was kind of getting shown off in this match, and that was a good way of going. It seemed like the crowd was even getting behind it a little bit. They were definitely into Sasha to go along with everything. I enjoyed this match. It was a good main event for everything. Kurt comes down, which seemed kind of out of place. He basically raises Sasha Banks' hand, kind of like what they did back in North Carolina with Ric Flair when he came out after she beat Charlotte and raised her hand and kind of endorsed her. So that was kind of what they were going with there. But Alexa Bliss comes down afterwards, and she kind of gets in the face of Sasha. Sasha basically takes her out and kind of poses with the title, everything in that sense, as they go off the air. Like I said, I thought this was a pretty good Raw overall. Like I said, I was not the biggest fan of the Miz TV segment But that's only one segment of the entire show. The stuff with Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt as well, but again, that was only really one thing on the show, and it really didn't really take that much away from the show itself. Overall, it was a rather good show with a good main event and some good 6-man tags. I like the stuff with Goldust and R-Truth, and they, like I said, they led up to the main event pretty well as well that night. So it came off pretty good with everything there. So yeah, overall, not a bad Raw, rather enjoyable one this week. But then again, like I said, where Raw has been over the last couple of weeks, it's probably not that much harder for them to be a little bit better each time. So yeah, I thought this Raw was rather enjoyable for everything said and done. So with that being said, everybody, that's basically everything I've got for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.